A lot of guys have been asking how I did the Flatline drums with the new GetGood samples from PIII. So I'm just going to quickly go over how I mapped it and everything, and then I'll bring up the session where I mixed it. So you can see here, once I had it all mapped out, I bounced them all down into audio files just to save computer power, and then moved that into another session. A lot of guys have also been asking how exactly to get the extra cymbals, since you can only have like 2 crashes and 1 accent. So I'm just going to quickly go over how I did that. I didn't do that with this one, but I'm doing Remain Indoors at the moment, and I did it with that. So I'll just show you. So you have your main instance. You want to open another one underneath that one. So then that'll pop up. And you want to make sure you have it set to the same MIDI channel. So I set mine to Omni. And then what you want to do is go into settings and clear your MIDI tempo or MIDI map, because otherwise you would be triggering multiple of the same thing and you don't want that. So then go into the cymbals and select the ones you want to use as well as your main ones. So I do that, and then you want to make sure you have everything panned properly, so because right now like the close mic is centered. So I do that, and then make sure it's going to the same output. So splash should be going to splash, and then overheads and so forth. So I'll just quickly do that. So yeah, those are the only 2 really that need to be done, because those are the only extras I'm using right now, but you would do that for every other one you're using. Then you want to go into settings. So you have your mapping here. So if you look down, there's your first main crash, but you also want your second crash. So I'm going to just map it right beside that. So that will be there. And then I'll set the choke right there. And then I'll do the same with the splash. So that'll be right there. So now I have both splashes, both crashes, all 3 crashes, sorry. So that's how you do that. I'm just going to close this now because I don't need it in this session, but it's pretty straightforward. So, and then this is how I actually mapped it out. So you can see here, I bought the Periphery producer pack for PIII and for Juggernaut. So I have their isolated drums. So I have that layered over where I'm going to be mapping. So then I literally listened to this thousands of times probably, and just did it exactly, and I made everything to the grid and to the same tempo or velocity at first, just to make it easier on myself. And then so I basically matched everything that I possibly could as close as I could. So then if you listen to it on top, it's pretty damn close. And I also, so that's, I didn't really want it to be exactly to the grid, because even though I didn't move it very much, it feels more human. So you can see these kicks aren't exactly right, and the crashes, and like everything is just humanized basically in Logic. That's how it works, because I go into MIDI transform and humanize, and basically I set the velocities by hand pretty much. Like I use another algorithm here. What is it? Random velocity. So say I'll select every kick and say I want the velocity between 118 and 112, just because I know that's a comfortable velocity for these kicks. And then I'll process that, so it's only doing that to the kicks. And I'll do that for every other shell and cymbal to their respective velocities, like wherever I feel they should be. And then I'll go in and hand change it. So like like I know like how a drummer plays, so I'll do that, and then I'll adjust all the ghost notes, and then I go back in. And since I just adjusted all the velocities, I don't want humanizing it to mess up what I had just done. So I'll basically take the velocity setting here, and I put that down to 2, just to give it a bit more of a feel. And then note length I set to 0 because that doesn't matter. And then I'll set position up to 17. I assume that's clicks, I'm not really sure. And then I hit process, select and operate at like 3 times, so it's like tripling what I had there. Just to me that feels the most human but still consistent. So then that gives me this with everything just offset from the grid, just barely, just to make it more human. And that's pretty much all I did. I literally just listened to it all and tried to match it as close as I could. And once I did that, I bounced it all out into Logic, into audio tracks. So basically, what I had done, I cleared it out here now, but so I had kick set out to bus 11, and then I did the same, so like bus 11, 12, 13, 14, all the way up to the highest one, which was 25 in this case. And then I created audio tracks with the inputs to those buses, and then armed them for recording, and then played it back, so it recorded every MIDI hit as if it were a microphone. And that's basically how I got the actual files down. I'm just going to show you basically how I mixed. So you saw I had everything bounced down into audio files. So now I imported those into a new session just for cleanliness. And then I also imported all the files from the producer packs in. So basically if I mute my processed drums, it's basically going to play back Flatline as if it were. So you can see that's basically how Nolly mixed it. But basically I just muted the drums and put in my drums. Does not have the same power, but it's pretty close. So I'll just show you quickly. So in Logic you have track stacks, and I use those a lot because it's just easier and it saves processing power when you can process a bunch of things at the same time. So I do that with guitars when I'm mixing my own stuff, and it's a lot easier for me. So I basically have both snare mics under a track stack so I can control the snare basically, because I still process the snare individually. I just don't want the bottom mic to sound the same, like to have the same frequency qualities as a top mic. So then I have like all the toms processed at the same time, and then the overheads at the same time, and same with the rooms. So I'm not doing much individual processing except for on the snare, and then I basically just set all the levels to how I think it should be. And then I have all of those track stacks plus the kick, because it's alone, going into my drum bus here, and I'm doing some processing on that just to polish it. And I also have the kick, snare, toms, and overheads going into a parallel bus compression here. It's just to give it more punch, and I use that a lot. Just if I feel like the kick and snare are getting lost, and sometimes the toms, I'll do that, and you just adjust it into taste. It's actually pretty low in the mix, as you can see. And then the snare is also going to reverb bus, just so it has space. Okay, I'll start off with the kick. So if you go to the kick, I have this. So I'm using Slate plugins for the most part. Almost completely, actually, now that I look at it. So I start off, I have a template that has the mic pre and the virtual channel, the VCC channel there. I just leave that there. I don't really touch it. It's just in my preset that I just use. So it's just there. So as you can see, I have what is this? The custom series equalizer, and I'm trying to get, mainly with these samples, I like the sound of them raw pretty much. I just want a bit more click than what it has. So I'll show you what that's doing. So as you can see, I have the click and like the punch of the kick. I've just found I like 10K and 2K. I boost quite a bit of that. Like it's at like almost 5 there on the 10K, and like almost, it's like 3.5 on the 2K. And then I just have a bit of a 60 hertz boost there, like not much at all. And then I run that into a compressor, but it's actually only about 20%. It's like medium attack, pretty quick release, but like it's on 2. And it's just so it gets more consistency, kind of. Then I have a second EQ here, about like 1.5 dB, almost at 4K. And then I'm cutting a bit of 420-ish hertz, just a little bit, just to clear things up a bit. And then this doesn't need to be here because I'm not doing anything. And then I have it a low cut of at 35 hertz, just to clear out any of the extreme lows. And then I have this revival plugin. It just, shimmer and thickness is exactly how it sounds. It just kind of, I'll show you with and without. So you can see it just adds a bit of body, and I like that, just more punchy. And then I have this trim plugin here. I use that so I don't have to touch the fader in Logic as much. It's more satisfying when you don't, even though I have these set pretty low, but it's just satisfying to have the zeroed out fader, but you can still control it. So like, as you can see, not much done to the kick there. It's pretty straightforward. Barely any EQ, barely any compression. And then on the snare, so we'll start with the top mic. So as you can see, like I have the same basic thing. So I have a bit of a top boost here, like the shelf there. Almost 3K, I have like a 3.5 decibel boost, and then I have a bit of a 1K cut, and then, what is this, 84 hertz boost, just to give the snare a bit more body. And then I have pretty heavy compression. It's like not too heavy, but it just adds more punch. And then I have that same revival plugin. It just adds more punch to it. So I'll play it back with and without. So as you can hear, it just kind of just clears it up. It gets rid of some mud and adds some top end to it. And as you heard there, I had the bottom mic on accidentally, but that's not much done there. Just a bit of a crack, like, you know, like a bit of a 12K boost, and then a little bit of compression. But you don't want the bottom snare to get too overwhelming, so I don't do much to that. So then I have both of those being sent out into this reverb bus. I'm using verbiage here, and right now it's not set. I have this preset called Nolly Snare, and it's I pulled it from, I'm subscribed to Nail the Mix, and Nolly actually uses this as his settings, and I liked the sound, so I screenshotted it and copied the settings, and it fits pretty well in my opinion. So I don't really care if you don't like that I copied his settings, but whatever, I don't care. So that basically just adds some brightness. And then I have a mixer, a directional mixer. It basically it pulls it in a little bit. I have it set like the spread to 0.6, so it pulls it in like I guess 40% less than complete stereo. And then that goes into the main drum bus as well. And that I also have that going to the parallel compression just because it kind of, you hear the reverb more. And then this gain plugin might not even be doing anything. Okay, yeah, it's pulling it down just 2 dB just so it's not clipping. The toms, let's see if I can find some toms to show you. Okay, here's some toms. So this is, so they're like pretty punchy. Not really doing much. I'm actually using, like, I kind of modified one of the Slate presets here. It's just some like high end, and then it cuts some mids and a low end boost. It's actually more low end than I would usually do. And then the revival thing again, and some compression just to level things out a bit. And then again, that's going into the bus compressor for parallel compression and the main drum bus. The overheads. As you can see, I have the China pulled down quite a bit because it's a pretty hot mic and it was just punching out. So for the overheads, I have what am I doing here? I have the low cut at about 116 hertz. It's just, I don't know. I don't like having the kick in the overheads too much. It just gets too like woofy or something. I don't know. So I have like a high mid boost. What is this? Around like almost 7K there. Just about almost 4 decibels. And then some low mids I have cut, and then lows about 300 hertz cut. And then I'm compressing them just to give them a bit more like punch, sort of. And then like all the lighter cymbals, like the splash and the hi-hats, will stick out a bit more. And then this is basically doing nothing except it's a high pass at 15K. No, sorry, low pass at 15K. And then the trimmer plugin just to add some volume there. So I'll play the overheads. So you can hear the kick is still in the overheads. It's just not, like, you're not getting the lows. So if I play it with and without. So you can hear when I turn that plug-in chain off, if you're listening to it on like good headphones or monitors, you'll hear there's a lot of low end and it builds up and it just gets overwhelming. And then I have JST Transify. I basically just have that to extend like the wash of the cymbals a bit. I just find like no matter what samples you have, the cymbals are always a little bit of a short decay. So this is barely like adding whatever 15 amount on the sustain knob is. Just adding a little bit. Like it's barely noticeable, but I like it. So here's with and without. Sorry, I don't even know if you would be able to hear that. I don't even know if I can hear it, but I like it, so I used it. And then with the rooms, so I just have the near room down a little bit just because I like the openness of the far room a little bit better. So if you look here, I have a pretty steep low cut here. I have it at almost 300 hertz just because I don't want, again, the low end in the rooms. So here's with that and without that. So, like, in my opinion, I don't want that woofy kick to be in the overheads or in the room mics because it'll have this weird whooshing feeling to me. So, again, with the processing, I have the low pass at like 10K just because I find with the far room mics it gets really shrill in the high frequencies, and then I have 100 hertz of a high pass. It's kind of redundant because I have it cut off at like 300 here, but whatever. And okay, and 110 here as well. I don't know what I was doing, but there's that. And then I just have a bit of EQing here just to polish it off a little bit, and some compression just because it brings out like the sustain in the snare and all that. So, like, as you can see, it's not that intricate. And then on the drum bus, I just have a little bit of a high mid boost and a low boost, and then a little bit of compression here, and then the revival plugin. It's probably overused, but I like the sound of it. And then the virtual mix bus just to give it like the console feel. And then if you look on my parallel compression, I'm using FG Red by Slate again, and it's a aggressive drive is what his preset was, but I adjusted it a little bit, I think. And I don't really know if this is how you should be doing parallel compression, but it sounded good to me, so this is. So I have the kick, I have everything except for rooms in there at varying levels, like the snare being the main part. So if I play it with and without the parallel compression. Sorry. Just adds a bit of punch, and it's a lot more noticeable in the mix. So actually, I'll play the mix with and without parallel compression. So you notice especially the kick and snare just punch out a lot more. And that's pretty much all I did. It's not very difficult, just use your ears basically. And I do start most of my mixing with a preset. Like if it looks like something I'm going for, I'll start with that, and if I like it, I'll stick with it or modify it a bit, and if it's not, I won't. But yeah. So I hope that helps for anyone who was wondering, but there you go. Thanks for watching.